Okay. Show me.
Hi there guys, welcome back to the Dutch TC channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. And this here is the Diatone Roma F4 long range quadcopter, brand new quadcopter from Diatone. I've already done an extensive overview of this quadcopter with some flight tests. And this here is the plug and fly version, so it comes without a receiver. All the rest you do get with this quadcopter. However, I've got me a second one. Well, actually this is only the frame kit. So in this video we're gonna take a look at the frame kit itself, a frame review. At the end of this video I'll give you a brief overview of the parts I'll be using for this version. This will obviously be a little different, right? Otherwise there wouldn't be really a reason for me to have a second one. The setup on this one will be, well, yeah, different. Okay, so let's first take a look at the frame itself. Okay, we have ourselves some documentation. What is this? Okay, I hope this will be visible to you. We've got a parts list in case you break something and you need to replace that part. And we got an assembly overview, which is definitely an exploded view basically, which is definitely handy. And okay, yeah, some more instructions of how to assemble the frame. Then we've got a lot of stuff. You know what? I'll take everything out of this box and then we'll see what we have here. So the first things in the box are the frame parts, the carbon fiber frame parts, and they are all vacuum sealed, as you can tell here. I've never seen this from Diatone or any other. No, I don't think so. So definitely well protected. The parts very, very nice. And let me see, this is here one of the bottom plates. This basically here. These two parts are the bottom plate, or the bottom structure if you will. Then we've got 4 arms, but the front arm is a 2-in-1. So not a separate left and right front arm, which I'm kind of glad about. This will be stronger and lighter. If this would have been 2 separate arms, they would have had to use extra screws and maybe even, well, more plates or anything. This will make things lighter. And yeah, if you break one arm, you'll have to replace both arms, obviously. At the rear, these are the rear arms, and those are separate arms, as you can tell. And maybe there wasn't a benefit to this also being a one-piece thing. Maybe it was harder to cut or more expensive to cut. But again, maybe there was simply no benefit for this also being a 2-in-1 arm. And we've got the top plate over here, a one-piece top plate. So that's the carbon fiber parts. Obviously in a second we'll see the entire frame assembled. Then we have 2 TPU parts. This over here you'll mount your GPS antenna in or your crossfire antenna. It'll be mounted to the frame like so, right? There you see the GPS antenna, and I don't have a crossfire receiver in mine, but you'd have your antenna over there. Then the second thing is to mount your receiver in and to slot your receiver antenna tubes into and your FPV antenna tube into. So this part, well, has 3 functions basically. Then we have ourselves a bunch of mounting hardware or assembly hardware. We've got standoffs. We've got 4 shorter standoffs and 2 slightly longer ones. I'm not sure what goes where yet, but we'll see. We've got some press nuts and some washers. And we've got a lot of screws, obviously, for the frame. And we've got a camera mount, an aluminium, yeah, this will probably be aluminium. Pretty nice actually. Most times an aluminium camera mount smothers vibrations well. From my experience at least, and we'll see if that's the case in this quadcopter. The frame comes with 2 antenna tubes. You get 1 battery anti-slip mat. You get 3 straps, and they are all different actually. Maybe for different battery sizes or different camera sizes, right? So 2 narrow ones in different lengths and a wider one for probably for your battery. And we get a molded action camera mounting system, and this is the same as on most modern Diatone quadcopters. Basically a quick mount for a Gopro, that's what you get, and some screws and an Allen key. So that's everything you get for your money. I'm gonna screw the frame together and then we'll see, well, I'll tell you if it was easy or hard. We'll see if the carbon fiber parts, which are still in the bags, were clean. I assume they are. They look clean, but we'll see. How the chamfering of the carbon fiber parts are. So is the fit and finish good? And we'll see what the bare weight of this frame is. Alright, hartstikke, we've got ourselves a built frame, which was pretty easy, and my hands are pretty much clean. Sometimes if you thread a screw through a carbon fiber plate, there's some carbon fiber dust, but basically all the frame parts were squeaky clean, which is nice. And if you've ever had Diatone frames or quadcopters, you know that the finishing of the carbon fiber parts is very nice and smooth, and that's no different on this quadcopter. Nicely filleted carbon fiber parts. So that's nice, and yeah, I've got the top plate not mounted yet, so I'll show you the inners in a second. One thing I should show you is the amount of stuff that you are left with. So spare screws, even spare standoffs, 2 spare standoffs and a lot of screws. A couple of these screws I still need for the top plate, but even spare press nuts. Very nice. So the assembly itself, you get this manual, right? Exploded view thing. That definitely helps. However, it could have been even better. I'm not sure if you'll be able to tell, but you've got C2, C2, C3. So those are the screws. But what screw is that? All the bags with screws are clearly labeled, so that's nice. However, what is C3? What is C2? What is C2? So yeah, it is in the parts list over here, but well, every time you look at this assembly guide and want to know what screw is what, you have to flip the page and see what's okay. It's a minor thing, but this definitely helps in assembly, especially with these lightweight frames. Every screw is just as long as it needs to be. On a freestyle 5-inch frame, some screws might be longer than they need to be, simply for ease of use. All screws are then the same length, and that's easier to assemble. On a lightweight quadcopter like this, at least in this Diatone, you've got more different types of screws or length of screws. And to keep things light, so that makes assembly take a little bit longer, but it's never rocket science. Obviously the frame went together well. So one thing I should draw your attention to as well is the mounting options in the frame. You might have noticed from the ready to flies, it has 2 stack mounting positions over here. One 20 by 20 stack mounting pattern. At the rear as well, 20 by 20. So no 16 by 16 in this frame. But you also have a whoop style of mounting pattern. So these are the outer mounting spots for your whoop style board. So that might actually be an option. I will be using a 20 by 20 stack, but that's definitely a unique feature of this frame. Also, with the frame fully built, you can get to all screws for either the 20 by 20 stack or the whoop style stack or board. So that's well designed. And yeah, what goes for all of these lightweight frames, there's no meat on the bone. For instance, all these cutaways over here, if there's no extra strength required, you've got all kinds of cutaways to keep the frame nice and light. So yeah, speaking of, let's see what the weight of this frame is. So what do you think? What does a frame like this weigh? Actually, I'll wait a couple of seconds and just throw in a comment down below with your estimate weight. 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's have a looky. 40 grams. I had actually kind of almost guessed Well, I was hoping below 40 grams, but it's exactly 40 grams. And anti-slip mat for the battery. Hartstikke, anti-slip mat, 42 grams. Then we need at least a battery strap, right? Battery strap, 48 grams. We don't really need this, but this is a TPU part for the receiver. Yeah, it's nice extra. 50 grams. And I'm not gonna add the GPS mount because I don't need it. I won't even be using it. So 50 grams for a 4-inch frame. That is definitely light. It's not actually super duper light, but yeah, the battery strap is just as big as on other quadcopters in this size, I guess. 45 grams. Oh, that's 5 grams for the battery strap. That's quite a lot, actually. Huh. Funny. Obviously, if you add motors and such, that 5 grams won't make much of a difference anymore, but still. Alright, we'll make it 50 grams net weight for this frame, which is, again, very light. Now, let's see if this frame also has dimensions. I just love it when frames have dimensions. Alright, motor to motor, left to right front is 15 centimeters or 150 millimeters. And at the rear, the frame is a little narrower. Let's see how much. 1 centimeter less, 13 centimeters in width. Typical dead cat configuration. And the wheelbase of this frame is let's see, a 175 millimeters or 17.5 centimeters. And let me see, more dimensions. Total length is 13.5 centimeters. Now there are a couple of extra important important dimensions. Camera. What kind of camera can you get into this frame? That looks to be 19 millimeters. So yeah, I guess that means that the frame is meant for instance, the DJI cameras. But you can also put an analog micro camera or even a Nano, obviously with adapter into this frame. Then the motor mounting spacing is actually very important, because a lot of these frames only accommodate one type of motor spacing, and this one, that's a unique feature of this frame, of the Diatone frame, has 2 mounting patterns. Smallest is 9 millimeters, but you can hopefully see that there are bigger spacings as well for 12. Let's check that. 12? Yeah, 12 millimeter. And I actually have 12 millimeter mounting spacing motors. But if you have different motors with smaller, this definitely makes this a more flexible frame, which is part of the reason why I got me this frame. Also, being able to mount a whoop style of board. But so very nice. That's basically my frame review of this Diatone Roma F4 long range frame. Now, as a bonus, let's have a look at the configuration I've selected for this build. So guys, whenever you go and plan a build, so ordering parts for a build, you generally start with the frame, right? The size of the frame, and in this case a 4-inch lightweight frame. Then in general I pick the motors that suit my purpose, and in this case I've got me some Flash Hobby Arthur 1404 motors. I've done a review of bigger Flash Hobby motors. So Flash Hobby is basically DIS 2.0, or the remnants of DIS. You probably know DIS, which went bankrupt in 2019. Okay, so Flash Hobby and 1404, that's a usual size for these 4-inch lightweight quadcopters. However, these motors are, though the motors actually say it's very small print, obviously, 4300 kV, which is a high kV, far higher than the ready-to-fly version of this quadcopter. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this build. I want to test these motors, but also I want to build something different, right? So this version should be able to fly on 2S and 3S. Which is what I want. I want to be able to test 2S 18650 packs on this quadcopter, so therefore high kV, and we'll see how that works out, obviously. Then I've got myself a stack from Mamba Diatone, and this is a pretty typical stack. It's a little higher spec'd than the stock stack in the F4 Roma. This is an F405 stack, but it's a 35 amp 4-in-1 ESC. Let's actually take a quick look. Yeah, it looks like a stack, right? No surprises here. It does come with an XT60 connector, and I'll be using an XT30 for this build. But other than that, yeah, it comes with all the amenities that you'd expect, stack screws and such. So that's all very nice, and we'll see. This should just work, of course. That's why I ordered me a Mamba stack. Again, they work. Then I've got me a VTX, and this one is from Diatone, but this is a TX500. At this point they only sell these separately, so not in a ready to fly. It's a small hop-up, right? The stock F4 Roma comes with a 400 milliwatt VTX. This is a 500 milliwatt, but it should also be a little smaller. Let's actually have a look. It comes with quite a lot of documentation, which is nice, and a very, very small VTX. So 500 milliwatts, and this is approximately half actually the size of the 400 milliwatt version, which is surprising. It has 20 by 20 mounting holes, but only 2 because it's half a board basically. And yeah, we will see. Should perform basically more or less the same, I think, as the 400 milliwatt version. Then as camera, I've got me a Foxeer Predator Micro. Now this is a Predator Micro 4, so the previous version basically. I am actually in the midst of a review of the old versions of the Predator 5, coming up shortly. I need to shoot a couple more recordings, but that's almost ready. So coming up shortly, a review of the Predator 5. In this build, I'll be using a Predator 4, but yeah, at this point you'd obviously be buying a Predator 5. This is what I had in the parts bin. Then I've got me a receiver, and this is an Frsky, does the package say? Well, this is an Frsky XM Plus receiver, more than enough. This is an analog quadcopter I'm building here, right? So it's not long range at all, it's more an endurance build. So XM Plus will do just fine. Propellers, to begin with, I'm gonna be using the same propellers that come on most of these LR4s. So HQprops, and these are 4 by 2.5 inch, so a 2.5 inch pitch. And I will probably be experimenting with different props. I do have 3-bladed versions of these, and I've got some chamfered props, but we'll see how that all works out. And the last part is actually a mistake of mine. This is a 5.8 gigahertz antenna, but it's the wrong kind. This is an SMA. Yeah, SMA connector kind. I had expected kinda to have a mount for such an antenna, maybe at the rear over here, but no, I've already ordered up the same, but then the UFL version. So I'll be using the UFL version. Apparently, yeah, the product link is the same. Look it up. So yeah. So guys, that was a frame review of the Diatone Roma F4 LR frame, and a quick overview of the parts I'll be using on this build. I will get back to you with my findings of this build to see, well, for instance, is flying these quadcopters on a 2S worthwhile? Does it work out basically? And what else? Yeah, I want to know if these motors work out well, so I'll tell you in a upcoming video. This Mamba stack will just work. The TX500, we will see. I assume it'll work just fine. So yeah, this is obviously not a long range quadcopter for me. It's not digital. And therefore I will come back to you with my findings on which propeller I like best on a setup like this. If you are left with questions, hit me up a comment down below. Catch you on the next video. Bye bye.